Hey guys, and welcome to the video. So, food guilt is a massive thing when dieting. So, eating too much and then just feeling guilty afterwards. So, eating the cake, eating the cookies, eating the chocolate, eating the ice cream, eating the junk food, and then just this overall massive feeling of guilt and kind of telling yourself, oh, why did I do that? I can't sort of keep any of my promises to myself, all those kind of things. And the natural thing to do for many people with guilt is to take action and try and undo the past by kind of overcompensating in the diet going forward. However, in this video, I'm going to be going over why that is a problem, why that doesn't help, and why it actually makes the problem worse. And if you watch to the end, I'm going to be giving you the chance to register for my free emotional eating webinar, where I go over more about why you emotionally eat and what to do to fix it. So once that comes around, you can register for your preferred date and time. So let's get into the video. So first of all, what is guilt? So guilt is just a signal to tell you that you have violated your values or your decisions around something. So in the case of food, you've promised yourself you wouldn't eat something and then you end up eating it. And that process kind of makes you feel the guilt and sort of feel bad about yourself. I made a decision and I went against it. So you're breaking a promise to yourself. And when you overeat after you've promised that you wouldn't, you're kind of chipping away at your own self-integrity. And this can show up in other areas of your life as well. If you're continually chipping away at your self-integrity in one area, it makes you believe in yourself less. So for example, you may show up in your career differently. So you may put ideas forward less often because you don't believe in yourself so much, because you've broken your decision and you can't sort of keep to your promises in one area, and it kind of changes your identity and makes you think, maybe my opinion isn't valid because I make promises to myself and I break them, or I don't follow through on my decisions. And so it can show up in other areas of life, like career, but like other areas of life as well. And the problem is it stops you moving forward, right? And it stops you leading a happy life. And the problem with guilt is that it is just a signal. You need to follow it up with action to have a change from that signal, right? But the problem with most people is that the action they take is to try and undo what they did wrong, rather than actually change it in the future. And there's 3 reasons why trying to undo what you did is a bad route. So reason number 1 is that if you try and push yourself more after you've eaten more, so for example, do more exercise or cut your calories more, then it can be detrimental because it can make you feel different in terms of stress, which could lead to actually feeling hungrier and wanting to overeat again, which can start the cycle again and make you kind of overeat and violate those decisions again. And it kind of creates this loop and this paradox of you've reacted to it and it's made you actually get worse at doing it because you then feel hungrier and want to eat more, and you kind of make bad decisions around food again. And number 2 is that you start to use diet and exercise as a punishment for something you've done wrong in the past. So rather than using diet and exercise or saying diet and exercise is something you get to do to improve yourself as a person, to eat amazing food and to use your body how it's meant to be used, it becomes a punishment. I have to do this because I did this wrong. And you start to treat it negatively. You don't feel good doing it, which obviously is not a good thing. And reason number 3, really, really important, if you see my other videos, is that if you run over experiences in your mind that are bad, you end up ingraining them more. So I'm going to be going over this more later in the video. So what should you do when you feel guilt around overeating, eating too much food, eating that cake, that chocolate, that biscuit, the ice cream? So step number 1 is just move on, forget about it, and do nothing. Do not react. Carry on as you would have otherwise. Step 2 is decide whether you need to raise your standards around your values or to change the rules you have around those values. And I'm going to go into this a bit more as well to make it super clear what I mean by that. So raising your standards is a pretty simple concept. if you are not living in alignment with your values around food, if you're breaking your decisions, if you're constantly breaking your promises to yourself, you need to raise your standards. So when you get those urges, those cravings, that boredom eating, the binge eating impulses, you need to be able to raise your standards in alignment with your values. And this is something I work on a lot with my clients. So basically being able to control emotional eating. And when they get this right, when they're able to fix this, then the actual following the diet becomes so much easier because they are able to live constantly in alignment with their values and do what they said they were going to do and end up not chipping away at their self-integrity as well. And the next one, updating your rules around values. So this is more of a reframe. So it's asking the question of, is this actual guilt necessary? So thinking back and thinking about the food you ate, asking yourself the question, like, if this opportunity presented itself again, would I do the same thing? Because if I would, then I shouldn't feel guilty around it. And a lot of people have, like, let's say, outdated rules around their values because of things imposed upon you. So for example, a lot of diet programs have rules in them, which if you don't follow, you feel guilty, right? Because you haven't done what you said you were going to do. But why are those rules there and what do they actually mean? So counting sins, for example, means you can't have certain things. But on another diet, you could have that. So it's more about updating the rules around that you're following. And should you feel guilt over something because you're following some arbitrary rules that were imposed on you by a diet program that you don't understand why they're there, and in one case you could follow them and be okay, and on another diet you could do something different and still get results and still live in alignment with your values. So it's more the rules around the values that need to be changed or updated or just clarified, rather than actually not living in alignment with your values, right? And this is different to constantly breaking your promises to yourself, because this is more the rules being outdated or just bad rules, and it's making you feel guilty for no reason at all. And when you're able to put these guilt signals into action without trying to fix the past, you're able to enjoy and get more out of your food without feeling guilty and get better results at the same time. So being able to eat that cake, that cookie, the ice cream, things like that, without, again, feeling guilty and then running it over in your mind and having a bad rest of day because you just not enjoyed the fact that you violated your decisions, once again, the promises to yourself. And on that point, one of the biggest problems with guilt is that people run it over in their mind after they've done it. And this is a really big problem because it ends up ingraining that experience more in your mind. And if you've seen my other videos, you'll understand why this is. But it's because of the pink elephant theory. So if I say to you, so take a step back actually, so the unconscious mind doesn't process negative instructions. And what I mean by that is when you say, I'm not going to do something, it doesn't process the negative part of that sentence. So if I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant, what comes into your mind? A pink elephant, right? Because you have to imagine it to process it. So anything with a not or a don't, you have to imagine it. So when you are going over experiences in your mind, like guilt, you're kind of saying to yourself, oh, I hope I don't do this again. Like, why did I do this? You're running it over in your mind. When we combine this with something called mental practice, which is what actors or sports players do, basically going over stuff in their mind to get better at it. So the actor might practice their lines, or a sports player might practice kind of imagine swinging a racket or kicking a ball. And the more they do that, the more pathways and neural connections in their brain get formed. So they can actually practice doing something while they're not doing it, basically imagining. So the point is, the more you imagine something, the better you get at it. All right. So when we combine that with the pink elephant of, oh, I hope I don't do this again, or why did I do that? Even the bad things you say to yourself, I'm a terrible person for doing that, then you're constantly ingraining those things, even though you say you don't want them, you're imagining them. And the more you run over it in your mind, the more that becomes what you think about and more you like what you're good at doing, right? So when it comes around to that situation again, what are you really good at doing? The thing you've practiced in your mind over and over again, which is counterintuitive and it's a paradox, but it happens like so often. And this is one of the reasons why after emotional eating or binge eating, however you'd like to label it, and every time you say, yeah, this is the last time I'm going to do this, it becomes so much easier to do again because You go over it in your mind, you feel guilty, you practice it. Just like any skill, the more you play tennis, the better you get at it, right? The same with going over stuff in your mind that you did wrong. The more you go over it, the better you're actually getting at it because you are mentally practicing that thing. And this is one of the big things I work on with my clients. And like I said, going back to the action you take on your values, when you raise your standards, you need to be able to have control over those urges and cravings. So when we fix this, it becomes so much easier to then take action, raise your standards, and continue moving forward and get better results. And that's why I've opened up my free webinar on binge and emotional eating, which you can register for below. And in this, I will go over why you emotionally eat, why you're not broken, and how to fix it, what to do to fix it. So when you click on the link below, you can select the day that prefers you and the time that prefers you, and I will see you there. So that's it for today, guys. Has this video helped you? Do you get guilt around food when you eat these things? Cake, chocolate, ice cream, cookies, things like that. Let me know below in the comments. Do you get guilt? Do you get food guilt? And like, share, and yeah, comment as always, and subscribe as well. And I will see you in the next video.